And welcome back. So what you're looking at is, yes, yet another Ram 1500. However, this is the 2012 that you've heard me talk a lot about, that I refer to as the parts or donor 2012. And yes, you can see that the auction site and auction lot it came from, the environment was in, was fairly dirty because it's got dust and dirt everywhere. However, this engine starts and runs just fine. I was even able to drive this one a little bit, so I know it does have a little bit of a tick on this side. So it sounds like this may have the start of a lifter issue, but just the start of one, something that we can easily catch early enough that we can fix. So one of the plans for this, as we spoke about with the other Ram, was to potentially pull this motor and use it as a donor for the TRX, which may very well still happen based on what the next series of tests look like. If the leak down test on those two cylinders for the TRX, the 1 and the 7, show that we're blowing past the piston rings, and the piston rings are wore out, then we'll definitely be pulling motors, taking this one out, cleaning it up, doing a very similar upper end rebuild, and using it as a donor for the TRX, which will leave us a very nice shell. Now, it had some hail damage on it when it came from auction, but I necessarily don't care about hail damage considering what our plans are going to be for this truck going forward. Now, she is dirty on the inside. We haven't given this one the TLC and cleanup care that we have the other one, because all of our focus has been on the TRX. So she needs a bit of a good cleaning on the inside. And the thought behind this was that when we start on this project, since this is a two-wheel drive, and we deliberately were looking for a two-wheel drive originally, is that since this is a two-wheel drive, to me this makes a very nice platform to turn into a track truck, meaning we can pull, whether we end up using that 5.7 or not, we can keep it a 5.7, but the aftermarket support for a 5.7 Hemi is leaps and bounds much more prevalent than it is for a 6.4. Now, you can get aftermarket kits and bigger camshafts and such for 6.4. If you've looked at my other series on the 2500, you can do it, but we can get a much more aggressive cam, better tuning options, as well as supercharge a 5.7, which has been done hundreds of times, so it's proven. The aftermarket products for 5.7, like I said, since they're so prevalent and pretty much in a lot of Chrysler vehicles, have also been very much proven out. You can see it's got some dings and scratches in the body, but the worst pieces of it are on the hood there. You can see the hail damage, and on the fender here you see a dent right above the light. But other than that, she's not too bad, other than, again, just being dirty, needing a cleaning. So the thought is, even if we have to pull this 5.7 and build it up and use it in the TRX, then we take the TRX's block, provided it can still be machined, send it down to a machine shop, get the cylinders bored out, potentially 30 thousandths over, get the associated bigger pistons, and basically build that engine up to include an aggressive cam, non-MDS lifters, supercharger, you name it, and drop it back into this one. And then we start on things such as, again, we don't have four-wheel drive to worry about, so we got a little bit more space up front to play with. But again, if we're building something that we just want to take to the track and have some fun with, we don't need four-wheel drive. So then we can start focusing on items on the back end, like definitely putting a better series of rims and tires on it, potentially beefing up the rear differential, you know, and the list goes on. But another option is to not go with a 5.7, get a 6.4 out of a truck, and I specifically say out of a truck because the 6.4 truck versions are more beefy than the 6.4 car versions. My tuner suggests that if we're going to go to 6.4, go with the truck version of 6.4, and that's the reason why. Now we could also build up a 6.4 and drop it in here in place of the 5.7. We're just doing a couple of modifications that we can cover when we get to that. And if you can imagine something this much smaller, lighter, and only being two-wheel drive, either A, with a built-up supercharged 5.7 or a slightly built-up supercharged 6.4, this bad boy, it's not going to break records when you bring it to the track, but it should be something that ends up being quite the fun little thing to drive. As far as the interior, like I said, like you saw, it needs a really good clean. However, since we're going to make this a track truck, we can actually strip the majority of that interior out. Remove the back seat, remove the passenger seat, pull all the carpeting up, potentially just have the inside bed line sprayed, maybe with Rhino Liner or Line X, one of the two, and not even put carpet back in it, and really only just have a driver's seat inside this vehicle. So like I said, we've got a lot of options here and a lot of things we can play with, but this will be project number 2 that we can get started on, as soon as we can get the TRX out of the way and free up some space. Because as you saw, as we spoke about before, the TRX, even once we get the engine squared away and settled, it still needs some TLC in a couple areas, like wheel speed sensors, a blend door actuator motor that's checking bad. We got to look over the ABS system, basically we got a laundry list of items to look at. But I kept saying I was going to do a video on this, and I wanted to do a video on this one. And like I said, this one came up for auction. It came up for auction fairly cheap, and considering it is a run and drive, we actually got a pretty good deal on it. The only thing I've had to do so far, which you can see the tape there, is that it came from the factory, it came from the auction, which I'm not too happy about, with the rear back glass actually missing. In the photos for the auction, the back glass wasn't missing. When I asked the driver, the transportation driver who dropped it off, where's the glass, he commented it was in the back seat. So, and if you look at the seal on it, someone had cut the seal, like they were going to legitimately remove the back window and kind of change their mind. I don't know why. Maybe they were trying to gain access to the inside of the vehicle, but considering how it was cut, you'd have to have access to the inside and outside, because it looked like they used piano wire or something like you normally would when you're cutting through that butylene to get that window out. So, we had Safelite come out, put a new rear window in it to help keep it sealed up and protected from the elements. And we just been allowing the nice 90+ degree summer days to help us dry out some of the water that actually did make it to the inside of the cab. Again, which is why, another reasons why we're kind of just looking at stripping out all the extra seats, carpet, you name it, and just lightening our load, so to speak, as well as beefing up the motor. So it should be a fun little project. It'll allow us to get a little bit more onto the race end of doing performance builds, but at the same time also keeping it hopefully street legal. And I don't think removing the passenger seat and the back seats on it can make it non-street legal, but I'll have to look in on that. We may have to keep the passenger and rear seats in it when it comes time for inspection. I'll have to ask my inspection guys about kind of what we can get away with on the interior. With that being said, I just wanted to give you an overview of it and show you that when I make comments that we got a lot more content to come, I mean just that. So with that being said, I will let you go, and I will talk to you later. Thank you much. Bye.